Hey, we are proud to partner with the National Concealed Carry Association as a 10-ring partner. NCCA exists to serve the Second Amendment community by providing a nationwide network of 2A advocates, offer elite self-training, concealed carry training from the nation's top instructors, and provide rock-bottom prices on the best selection of gear and accessories. Join them today. Members get great prices and free shipping. You can learn a whole lot more just by going to National Concealed Carry Association.com.
Okay, it is an election year, and we have a pretty big election here in San Diego. The sheriff is not running, so we're going to have a new sheriff no matter what come November. So we have a candidate here, Mr. John Hemmerling. How you doing, John?
I'm good. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Okay, so you're running for sheriff. What do you do currently?
I'm currently the chief prosecutor in the city of San Diego and in our city attorney's office there.
Okay, and you're what was the catalyst? What made you run for sheriff?
Let's see why I'm running. It's a really good question. And first off, I want to thank you for allowing me to come on the show and speak tonight. The sheriff's race in 2022. It's about public safety. It's ensuring that we're electing the person who cares about the community we live in, who cares about supporting victims' rights instead of the criminals. Someone who will push back with everything that I have against defunding the police. The sheriff is everywhere in our lives. They run large patrol in large portions of the county. They run every jail. They're in every courthouse, every court building. They serve process. They serve restraining orders. They do evictions.
But why you? Why did you step up to run?
Well, I think it's important. Like I said, I think it's important that we finally get a chance and an opportunity for input. Who wants to be sheriff? I mean, it's been 30 plus years since we've had a non-incumbent election, and I think that there's an opportunity for change. I mean, I bring that change, whether it's leading prosecutions in my office, my experience working as a beat cop, or just the leadership that I bring as a retired Marine colonel. I'm well suited for this. And as you said, the current sheriff, he's not running, he's retiring. It leaves an open seat.
So So it's
the right person.
Obviously, we're a gun show, San Diego County Gun Owners. We're a gun organization, Second Amendment organization. What makes you pro 2A?
Well, I think that's another good question. I'm very familiar with and comfortable with firearms. I spent my whole life around them. And it's not only being a kid growing up in the Midwest around them, but my father was a retired cop after 25 years in Kansas City, and I spent 30 years in the Marine Corps around this. So, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. And
in what way are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? What have you actually done to support the Second Amendment? What does that mean? Hillary Clinton says she's a supporter of the Second Amendment. Nathan Fletcher was a Marine, and he says he's a supporter of the Second Amendment. What have you actually done? What can people sink their teeth into?
Well, like I said, I think it goes back to my whole life history, things that I've done. You're right. Nathan Fletcher was a Marine, but he wasn't a retired Marine after 30 years. He didn't work as a beat cop. So I know the importance, of having a strong amendment. The best way to protect the Second Amendment, is to ensure that we can enforce the laws that are on the books instead of putting more laws on the books.
So I think that's a good point. And I think that's a strong point. In my understanding, when I was doing my research, is that part of what you do in the city attorney's office, the city attorney who you work for is extremely anti-Second Amendment. I don't mean kinda. She shows up at anti-gun rallies and is the key speaker, but that's not you. You work for her, so I'm not going to put all of her faults at your feet. But one of the things that she's done and is known for is the gun violence restraining orders. Where do you stand on gun violence restraining orders?
Well, I think that it's a good question. And I don't know if because I don't want to speak for her and say that there's some kind of strong anti, Second Amendment feelings that she may or may not have, because I'm not in her head. But I think that, like it's been said in a lot of places, that there's no unlimited right to the Second Amendment. I mean,
here we go.
Plenty of laws out there.
Here we go. That didn't take long. My specific question is, what do you think about gun violence restraining orders? You personally?
I think gun violence restraining orders serve a good tool in the community.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about you. Listen, man, in no universe are you pro Second Amendment. Not only do you support gun violence restraining orders, but you actually help implement them in other jurisdictions, right?
Yeah, our office received a grant from the state to help train law enforcement on how to do gun violence restraining orders.
And you help do
correct.
that, right? That's a part of your job and what you've done.
Yeah, I definitely have. Yeah,
I got to tell you, those gun violence restraining orders are as big a violation of people's Second Amendment rights as I can possibly think of. You're taking guns away from somebody that haven't been convicted of a crime. And not only that, but your office. So I had a lady call up and say, "Hey, I was a victim of one of these gun violence restraining orders. She was going through a bad divorce. Her husband said, 'Hey, she threatened me with a gun.' You guys went and arrested her, put her in jail. She had to go in front of a judge." And the husband came and said, "You know what? She didn't actually threaten me with a gun. I was in it was high emotions. We're going through a divorce. I was mad. We're both mad. I'm so sorry." And the person who was at your office at the city attorney's office said if he retracts his statement, she will prosecute him for filing a false police report. And they had to continue going through the process. And this lady was terrified. Terrified. You guys are predators down there. And I don't say that lightly.
Well, I think, like I said, I think that, I don't think anybody can argue that it's not proper. If you have someone who's a criminal, they probably shouldn't be having guns. I mean, there's a whole statutes on armed.
But that's got nothing to do with gun violence restraining orders. That's got nothing to do with gun violence restraining orders. You don't go after criminals because a criminal is someone that's been prosecuted. You go after people that haven't been prosecuted and you take their guns away.
Well, what about individuals that are, get arrested, for example, right? And they've committed, they committed a crime. They get booked into jail. And they're, that doesn't mean that they haven't committed the crime.
So is the implication that you can't take? Wait a minute. Are you implying that you can't take if you arrest somebody? Maybe they're doing something violent. Are you implying that law enforcement, without gun violence restraining orders, law enforcement can't take their guns away? Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, definitely law enforcement can take their guns away. But
well, then why did you bring that example up? We're talking about gun violence restraining orders.
Well, because I'm saying if somebody did something violent, the police encounter them, they take their guns, they book them into jail. They could go out and they could still buy guns.
Well,
right?
John, let's go back to the last example. The fact that the husband accused the wife of doing something, you guys arrested her, pulled her guns away. I mean, without any proof other than the husband saying that she did this. So, I mean, I think that's the point we're talking about. It's not somebody breaking the law. That'd be no different if I said to a police officer that you ran over my cat and I seen you do it and it was on purpose, so they automatically arrest you.
Yeah. Well, I would say that in that situation, what you talked about sounds like domestic violence. I mean, people go get domestic violence restraining orders all the time, and where there's no intervention by government at all, and they make up stories, and the judge issues those anyway. So there is no really ability for somebody that's rational in that to weigh in and say, no, I don't think that's right. Because sometimes maybe it's true, sometimes maybe it's not. That's why you have to have the process go out, and the person in prison says, hey, that's all a lie, and maybe it's a he said, she said, and there's no proof. But at least on the other side, if I use my example on gun violence restraining order, someone gets a chance to say, no, your story doesn't. We don't have any corroboration, so we're not going to do
They're
that.
benevolent. So you're giving them the opportunity to make the case in front of a judge. Wow, that's great, John. That's total BS, man. These gun violence restraining orders are extreme. They're an extreme example of the abuse of power, and this is what happens when you get the wrong people in office. There's no case to be made that these are good for gun owners. There's no case to be made that they we have this thing in the country called the legal system, and it's made up of courts, and you get to go. There's no case. I kind of like it, by the way. I kind of like our legal system. Yeah. And this totally goes around.
And I do too.
Well, then how can you make the case that a gun violence restraining order is constitutional and good for gun owners? How can you make that case?
Well, Michael, you've already and you mentioned it earlier about police. I mean, we have all kinds of things where people get their guns taken away all the time without gun violence restraining order. Let's just go to people getting arrested, people getting any restraining order against them. There's a reason why the legislature in Sacramento keeps passing laws in California to make it harder and harder for you to own a gun, for you to buy a gun, for you to do anything with it, because they think they can take the stopgap into their own hands.
Hey, Joe, are you buying this?
The police.
Joe's across the room, and we're all laughing at you.
Well, no,
John, this is ridiculous, man. There's no case to
Joe's
be made.
going to
I'm
say
sorry,
something.
Joe.
Go ahead,
No, go ahead, Michael.
There's no case to be made. What you just said was that gun owners should embrace these gun violence restraining orders, because if we don't, they're going to make even more horrible gun laws. I'm not buying that, man.
They are making more horrible gun laws.
Yeah, with or without gun violence restraining order. You know what a horrible gun law is? Gun violence restraining orders. There's no defense to be made for this. And you're running against two people who they're just as they're stronger than you are on CCWs. So why would we vote for you? Why would we vote for you if they're? What are you going to do as sheriff? Are you going to?
Why would you think they're stronger than me on CCW? I support CCW.
Here's why they're stronger than you on CCWs, because one of them is actually the current undersheriff, and she's actually improved the CCW process. When I call, she picks up the phone. When I email her, she answers me. She's actually done things to support our right to carry, which I asked you at the beginning of the interview. You haven't really. The only thing you've done is spread and do more with gun violence restraining orders. She's not implementing gun violence restraining orders. She's not expanding gun violence restraining orders. As sheriff, is that what you're going to do? Are you going to expand the system because it's good for gun owners?
The sheriff's department does do gun restraining orders, because I know for a fact, because we've done stuff with them where they've done it. So they do, and I believe the sheriff still has good cause provisions on CCW in their policies. I mean, had to be a lawsuit on that, several years ago. Well, it's state law, but also it may not be going forward.
I got to tell you, thanks for the interview, John. If there is no case to be made that a pro-gun owner in any situation should vote for John for sheriff, I bet the Republicans are going to endorse this guy, and it's like a cancer in their party, man. You elect these rhinos. You don't care about the Second Amendment. You pay it lip service. Somebody shows up and says, "Hey, I was a Marine," and boom, you think he's pro-Second Amendment. Meanwhile, he's expanding gun violence restraining orders. No way should you vote for this guy. Don't give him $1. Completely reject his campaign. Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.